take these on page 22. Please give these back. Jai Radha, Jai Krishna, Jai Vrindavan.
This book is not good.
So we'll sing us in an Arisen Raga called Kalavati. Kalavati is a name for Radharani. It's also a raga for this time of day. And we'll do a little different arrangement. We sing Jai Radha, Jai Krishna, Jai Vrindavan, Jai Vrindavan. Twice we sing Jai Vrindavan. And that's the chorus. Everybody sings all together in between each line, set of lines. And I'll sing a little thing by myself. You'll catch on.
Oh yeah, good book. Yeah.
Page 22. Oh,
No, it takes a little bit.
maybe that's a different songbook for Vijay.
It's good. Oh, it's okay.
Sri Damari Jaya Jaya Venu Vatsala. Sri Damari Jaya Jaya Venu Radhe Krishna
Hare Krishna.
Jai Jagannath, Jai Ratha, Jai Jagannath, Jai Ratha, Jai Jagannath, Jai Ratha, Jai Jagannath, Rohini Nandana, Jai Baladev, Rohini Nandana, Jai Baladev, Rohini Nandana, Jai Baladev, Rohini Nandana, Jai Baladev, Jai Hamadara, Jai Baladev, Jai Hamadara, Jai Baladev, Jai Hamadara, Jai Baladev, Jai Hamadara, Jai Baladev, Jai Yogamaya, Jai Subhadrama, Jai Yogamaya, Jai Subhadrama, Jai Yogamaya, Jai Subhadrama, Jai Yogamaya, Jai Subhadrama, Jai Bhakti Dantri, 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 Jai Subhadrama, Jai Vaishnavastra, Jai Sudarshan, Jai Vaishnavastra, Jai Sudarshan, Jai Vaishnavastra, Jai Sudarshan, Shila Prabhupada ki jai. Shri Shila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada ki jai. Shri Premdata Nityananda Prabhu ki jai. Shri Prem Purushottam Sachinandana Gaura Hari ki jai. Bolo Giriraj Maharaj ki jai. Shri Radhakund Shamakund Govardhan ki jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Shri Mayapur Navadvip Dham ki jai. Ganga Mai Jamuna Mai ki jai. Bhakti Devi Tosa Maharani ki jai. Shri Shri Gaur Nityananda Prabhu ki jai. Shri Jagannath Ratha Yatra Maha Mahotsava ki jai. Shri Vipalamba Ketu Jagannath Puri Dhama ki jai. Shri Madhujara Saganaiti Murti Mahabha Prakash Jagannath Swami ki jai. Shri Jagannath Shri Baladev Shri Mati Subhadra Mai Sudarshan Ju ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Lalita Tota Gopinath Ju ki jai. Jai Jai Shri Radha. Gurave Gurachandraya Radhikaya Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tad Bhaktaya Namo Namaha Namashrestam Manamapi Sachi Putram Matra Swarupam Rupam Dashagrajam Murupurim Matarim Gostavatim Radha Kundam Girivadam Mohorarika Madhavasam Prapto Yasha Patita Kripaya Shigarum Tamnatosmi Ajanulam Bhuto Bhujo Kanakavadanto Sankirtanai Kapitaro Kamalaya Taksho Vishvambaro Dvijavaro Yugadharma Palo Vande Jagatpriyakaro Karuna Avataro Anarpita Chirim Chirat Karuna Avatinakalo Samarpaitam Manuchala Rasam Svabhakti Shriyam Hari Purata Sundara Dyuti Kadamba Sandipitaha Sada Hridaya Kandare Sparatuva Sachinandanaha Uttama Adama Kichuna Bachila Jachiya Dileka Kola Kahe Premananda Emana Gauranga Hridaya Dariya Bola Chuttoranga Agoranga Agoranga Nare Chuttoranga Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Prema Vidana Parama Pumartam Tasmai Jagan Mangala Mangalaya Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Madgavirapi Gopala Sri Kriyat Kripaya Jari Tadaiva Sambhaya Pitva Rishayustat Priya Janaha Shri Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Sasanatana Rupaka Gopala Raghunath Apta Brajavalabha Pahimam Vanchakalpatarubhishcha Kripa Sindhu Devacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Shri Govardhanaya Hare Rasa Varyaya Namaha Shri Radha Kundaya Shri Krishna Kundaya Namo Namaha. There's a very nice verse described by, written by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, which we put in our first issue of Krishna Katamrita magazine, where he describes our situation today. By the way, while I'm speaking, can everybody move close? Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says, Manashu Mahu Samchara Kinam Gam Gokulom Mukam Santa Pushna Vimam Snigdaha Karna Kasra Sanido. Very appropriate meditation for us this evening. He says that I have a katha. And this katha, he says, is like a cow. Cows, they don't like to stay in the Netherlands. It's a very dangerous place. Cows want to go to Vrindavan. So he said this katha of mine is like a cow. And this cow wants to go to Vrindavan, but it's suffering on the desert of my tongue. Well, this is where all of you come in. He then says that Santa, Santa doesn't mean Santa Claus. Santa means saintly persons, like all of you. Santa Push Navimam Snigdaha. You please be affectionate to me. It's important. Santa Push Navimam Snigdaha. Karna Kasra Sanido. And with your ears, which are just like wonderful reservoirs of water, please give shelter to this cow in the form of my katha. So we can recite these Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra, Pranam mantras. Please repeat after me. Nilachala, Nivasaya, Nityaya, Paramatmane, Balabhadra, Subhadrabhyam, Jagannathaya, Te Namaha, Jagannathaya Te Namaha, Jagannathaya Te Namaha, Jagannathaya Te Namaha, Jagannathaya Te Namaha. So this evening, with my very small mouth, we're trying to say a very, very big subject. We're trying to say something in glorification of Lord Jagannath, who's residing in Jagannath Puri Dham. Last night we had some katha, something about one of the purposes for us, how we can see Ratha Yatra. Does anybody remember some of what we said last night? What is the purpose of Ratha Yatra? Can anyone say, is anybody awake? Okay.
Non-sectarianism?
Yes. The Ratha Yatra is described by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. He uses the word sampradaya something like 14 times in the 13th chapter of the Madhya Lila of Chaitanya Charitamrita to indicate not the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, but to indicate the followers of Mukunda, the followers Gopijana Vallabha, the followers of Advaitacharya, the followers of Haridas Thakur, the followers of Nityananda Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, so many different Vaishnavas who have different families. This is a very interesting thing. The song we sang last night, says that Sata Sampradaya. There were 100 different Sampradayas there. And it's mentioned that all the different Mahantas, they were doing Kirtan Keli. They were doing pastimes of Kirtan. So there was great ecstasy amongst everyone present there because Deki Jagannatha Anandita, they were seeing Jagannath. What does it mean to see Jagannath? Does that mean, oh yeah, he's a good Jagannath? This particular deity is made out of stone, Jagannath. In some places they have a deity made out of wood. That's not seeing Jagannath. Jagannath means that you're seeing he's the Lord of the universe. He's the Lord of everyone. And when you see like that, which is Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma, you're seeing everyone equally, everyone is a child of God. Then, Dekite, he says that, Deki Jagannatha Anandita, everyone becomes very, very ecstatic. And Sata Sampradaya Gaya Gita, 100 different Sampradayas. I mean, so many. 100, sometimes Sata is used to mean unlimited. There's so many. So many different groups of devotees were coming. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was ecstatic and dancing in their midst because he saw the mood of the devotees. This is our purpose. Srila Prabhupada came to the West and they said, oh, you're here to make another religion. He said, no, I'm not here to make another religion. You can keep your religion. We spoke about that last night. You may be a Muslim, you may be a Christian, you may be a Jew, whatever. We don't care. You can also take part in this Krishna consciousness movement. And if we have this kind of spirit, then it's so very, very pleasing to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He begins to dance in ecstasy. Another point which is subtly indicated when it's said that Sata Sampradaya Gaya Gita, there's 100 different groups, means it's not all one. There's 100 different groups. And each one of these groups are very sweet. There's some small, intimate groups, mostly devotees following their Gurudev. Because to attain bhakti, we have Guru Nishta. We have to be very close with our Gurudev. And we stay with his family. But at the same time, just as when we're doing Govardhan Parikrama, when you do Govardhan Parikrama, traditionally, you're supposed to offer respects to everyone. Everyone means to every sadhu, every Shaivite, every Shakta, every Gaudiya Mat devotee, oh my God, every Babaji, oh my God, every Tyagi, every cow, every dog, every pig. And you see sometimes sadhus going and they're offering obeisances to every pig, every sadhu, every single person. That's the mood, because if you do that, then you'll please Giriraj, because he's there for everyone. And this is the mood of Ratha Yatra. Ratha Yatra really is needed so desperately in the world today, but not just the function of Ratha Yatra, not just the external trappings and something, but the actual spirit of Ratha Yatra, where everyone is welcome to come and worship God together. That's Ratha Yatra. And we spoke yesterday. We gave several examples of different people who were, so many different people, who were worshipping Jagannath in Puri. And those include the Ram Bhaktas, the Sri Vaishnavas, the Shaktas, the Ganapatnis, the Christians, the Muslims, and even the politicians and movie stars. Everybody has some appreciation for Jagannath. A very amazing thing. It's described by Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami about the nature of Jagannath. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu describes, I can sing this, and you can chant Hare Krishna in response. Daru Jala Rupe Krishna Prakata Samprati Shana Snani Kori Jivirati Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama He says that in the age of Kali, the Lord is manifest in two forms. And one of those forms is daru, form of wood, and the other form is jala, or wood, or water. And by taking darshan of the wood, and taking bath in the water, Kori Jivera Mukati. All the jivas get liberation. Daru Brahma Rupi Sakshat Shri Purushottam Bhagirati Hana Sakshat Kala Brahma Sam. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Hare. That Daru Brahma Rupi is Sakshat Shri Purushottam, Purushottam Jagannath. He comes in the form of that wooden deity. And Bhagirata, honey, Bhagirata means indicates the Ganga, the daughter of Bhagirati. Bhagirati Hana Sakshat Jala Brahma Sama. That's the form of the Lord in the form of water. So yesterday we raised a question. We spoke something a little technical. Almost everybody died in the class. Fortunately, a few people survived. We spoke about 2 types of names of Krishna. And it's really bad, but I'm going to ask you, what are one of the types? Does anybody remember one type? Can anybody say?
Secondary and primary.
Huh?
Secondary and primary.
Okay. Extra points for Bengali.
Mukhya.
Mukhya and Gona. Very good. Okay. So 2 types of names of God. Primary and secondary. What are some example of a primary name?
Krishna?
No, Vishnu's not a primary name.
Gopijana Vallabha.
Gopijana Vallabha.
Govinda.
Huh?
Govinda.
Govinda.
Gopal.
Damodar. Madhava.
Giridhari.
Giridhari. Why are those primary names? What's the difference?
Because it's connected to his pastimes.
Yes. So then what are the secondary names?
Ishwar.
That's Ishwar as an example. What's another example?
Narayan?
Jagannath, Narayan, Vishnu,
God.
God,
Allah.
Allah. Why are those names secondary? What are they characterized by?
Because of the interpretation from different cultures.
Okay, anything else?
More distance?
Some more distance, that's good. Anything else?
Related to the service.
Huh?
Related to the service he is performing.
Yeah, those secondary names are names in relationship with the material world. Shristikarta is one of them. He creates the material world. So that's a secondary name. And Bhaktivinoda in Harinam Chintamani in the 2nd chapter, we're reading this from, he says that the different Vedic literatures, the Karma Kanda division and the Jnana Kanda division, they speak about these secondary names. And what do these secondary names give? What do the primary names give? That's it first, that's best.
Raj Prem.
They
Raj Prem.
Raj Bhakti.
They give Krishna prem. And they give residence in Krishna's dham, Krishna's abode. And the secondary names, what did they give?
Or reference?
They give some liberation. Actually, I felt a little bad yesterday. I just read the translation, but it wasn't such a pucka translation. Sometimes devotees, because to translate, we also have to know some siddhanta. It's not enough just to do things in a mechanical way. And the nice Vaishnava who translated it is a good friend of mine. But anyway, he translated mukti as impersonal liberation. But that's not true. Mukti doesn't just mean impersonal liberation. There's 4 types of mukti. Kaivalya mukti is just one of them. So, but perhaps he interpreted the verse in that way because that was what he thought was negative. But Rupa Goswami, in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, he says that Vaishnavas are not interested in any kind of mukti. That's maybe rather shocking to hear. Even when someone has the same form of the Lord, even when you're with the Lord in the spiritual world, the devotees don't care. What is the verse? That's another verse. That they consider it all to be equal, whether they're liberated, whether they go to the hellish planets, whether they go to the spiritual world, doesn't matter to a devotee. All the devotee wants is to serve Krishna. That's the greatest happiness. So, from the Gonanam, Bhaktivinoda says 2 things are primarily given. One is that someone gets some pious credits, you get some sukriti. And the second thing is you may get some mukti. When Bhaktivinoda speaks about the Mukyanam, he uses the phrase Krishna Dham. We're entering Krishna Dham doesn't just mean Krishna's planet, but it means Krishna's entourage. It means entering into Krishna's family. So we spoke yesterday about how the name of Jagannath is a secondary name. And that is a little bit shocking because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is in Radha Bhav, and it's all Radha Nuga, and Ratha Yatra, and what's going on, if this is a secondary name, why is he, what is this? Does anybody remember why we spoke, what is the reason why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is speaking like this? He's addressing Jagannath, is Jagannath, and he also calls him, there's another word, does anybody remember? Manimam.
Sir.
Sir. Excuse me, sir. It's not a very intimate way to address God. It's maybe a little better than saying Om, but it's not so far away from that. So why is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu doing that? Is it because he's in the mood of the four Kumaras? He's in some Shantaras or some very... Why is Mahaprabhu speaking like that? Anyone remember? We spoke about how particularly we see sometimes ladies, they have something called parokshavad. What is parokshavad? Does anybody remember?
When you say, when a woman says something, men interpret it in a different way.
Parokshavad means you say one thing but you have another meaning.
Yeah.
You know, like in the movies, someone's getting ready to have a big fight, say, we're going to have some fun now. And the other person doesn't have fun at all. That's parokshavad in a gross kind of way. So many times the gopis, they address Krishna in parokshavad. And we spoke in the 82nd chapter of the 10th canto, there's only one verse spoken by the gopis to Krishna in the immediate Kurukshetra. Ahushchatena lina naba padara vinda. And they address Krishna there as Aravinda Pada, that personality, Padaravinda, from whose lotus navel Lord Brahma is coming. This is a secondary name. And we gave the general translation for that, but there was another meaning to it. Does anybody remember the second meaning we gave? The gopis are coming before Krishna in Kurukshetra, and they're saying, in effect, oh, excuse me, you're a big man now. Now you're the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We've heard about you. Everybody's worshipping you. Yogeshwarai, Vichim, Chimagada, Bodhi, all the greatest of yogis and wise persons are worshipping you. What can we do? We can't worship you. We're just really fallen women from a small village. Maybe you've heard of it before, Krishna? It's called Vrindavan. Have you heard of that before? They're speaking like this. It's a kind of, you could say, sarcastic speech, giving a double meaning to Krishna, you should remember. And don't try to speak to us about yoga. We can't do yoga. Jiva Goswami describes this in Priti Sundarbha when he explains this verse. He says that the gopis are saying we can't do yoga. Yoga is something meant for people who are very peaceful. We're not peaceful. We're disturbed all the time, constantly disturbed. We're agitated thinking about you. So don't speak to us about yoga. We can't do yoga. It's not possible. So in Jagannath Puri, it's a place of great transcendental, dynamic tension, which is created by two opposite moods. That's a very unusual thing. Usually in Russia, in terms of Leela and the Lord's pastimes, there's one particular mellow or mood which is prominent in that dham, in that abode, in that Leela. For example, we gave examples last night that Vrindavan Dham is Madhurjamoya Dham, the place of sweetness. Navadvip Dham, Navadvip Mayapur Dham is Odarjamaya Dham, it's a place of kindness and mercy. Vaikuntha is a place of Aishvarya, great opulence. And what is Jagannath Puri? Three things are found in Jagannath Puri. Does anybody remember? Sanatana Goswami describes this. Does anyone recall? Tat Paramaishvarya, he says, there's great opulence. I mean, oh my God, big time opulence. But there's also great mercy. The Lord appears, there's Patit Pavan Jagannath. And he says that Ramyam, there's also great sweetness in that place. And we see that in Gaur Leela. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is associating with Gadadhar Pandit at Tota Gopinath Temple and the Gambhira with Ramananda Roy and Swarup Damodar. There's great sweetness in those pastimes. And in Jagannath himself, we gave two examples last night, how Jagannath is Aishvarja, Madhurja, Yugala Milan. He's a combined form of both opulence and sweetness. And we discussed some of Jagannath's dresses. Does anybody remember? What was the dress that signifies Jagannath's opulence? Extra points if you remember the real word. Sonavesh, the golden dress. And we showed some picture of that. We passed it around last night. He has solid gold hands and gold feet. And I started to mention last night, maybe I didn't get to it. Many times in Puri, there are more people who come for the Sunavesh than come for Ratha Yatra. They have a bigger crowd for that because people really like it when God gets opulent. They really, wow, he must be the man. He's big, he's bad, he's got gold, he's really opulent, he's the Lord of the universe. People really relate to that. But there's another dress that the Lord wears, which is not so impressive and not as well known, which indicates his sweetness. Does anybody remember the name of that dress? Who said that? Oh, Krishna Kumar.
Bora, is it Bora Besh?
Bada means Boro.
Oh yeah, Bora.
Bada Sringara Besh, or the dress of the great conjugal mellow. When Lord Jagannath, he wears this Gita Govinda Kandua, this sari which has some of the writing from the Gita Govinda on it. When we made our magazine, this Hidden Identity of Lord Jagannath, it's a little advertisement. If you want to find out more about these things, you should get this magazine. There's a lot of information. Many scholars told us afterwards they've never seen many of the points written in here, or even haven't even heard of anybody even asking the questions that were asked here, much less answers to them. We came across in research a wonderful song written by Madhavi Devi. Does anybody know who Madhavi Devi is? I'll give you a hint. She's not a paraplegic. Who's Madhavi Devi?
I thought she was a very great devotee.
She's a very great devotee, okay.
One of the 2.5. So
She's one of the 3.5, so that's why I say she's not a paraplegic. It's not that she was like half a body or something like that. But it's considered in Orissa traditionally that she's considered half because she couldn't associate intimately with Mahaprabhu because he'd taken sannyas. So Madhavi Devi, she sings a very wonderful song about Jagannath. Shri Nanda Nandana Se Jagannath Chanana Chachita Amara Sakshabhajendra Kumara Sehari She's speaking about Lord Jagannath. Who is Lord Jagannath? If you say that Dwarkadish Krishna is the son of Mother Yashoda, will we accept that? What do you think? Am I making everybody too confused?
That's a good question.
Is that good? Is that true or not true? True?
Yeah.
True. Okay, what do you think, Ratha?
I have to ask the question again.
Okay, if we go to Vrindavan, let's say, and we tell the Bijbasis that this fellow living in Dwarka, his name is Dwarkadish, that he's the son of Nanda Maharaj and he's your Krishna, will they accept?
No.
No. And Rupa Goswami, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Acharya say, no, it's not Krishna. It's a little complicated if you study Lalita Madhav and Ujjwal Nilamani, but that's another postgraduate discussion for another time. But they say that it's Vasudeva Krishna. And that Krishna actually, this is a big subject we're just going to touch on, Krishna's actually the son of Mother Yashoda. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in Sarita Darshani, he cites Harivamsa Purana, which describes that at the same time, Devaki gave birth, Mother Yashoda also gave birth to twins, to Yogamaya and Swayamrup Govinda, Krishna, Nandanandan Krishna, the original personality of Godhead. In the prison house of Kamsa was the Avirbhav, means the appearance. It was probably really good for Devaki, because for those ladies here who've given birth to a child before, could you imagine giving birth to a child who had a metal helmet on and had a club in one hand and a Sudarshan Chakra in another hand? It would be a rather painful experience. So he appeared in the prison house, and Vasudeva and Devaki began to offer prayers. But at the same time, he was born from the womb of Mother Yashoda. And our acharyas give proof of that, that the umbilical cord of Krishna was cut in Gokul. So unless that umbilical cord was very long and went across the Jamuna, it's solid proof. Krishna is the son of Mother Yashoda. And when Vasudeva brought that Vasudev baby across the Jamuna to Gokul, to the maternity room of Mother Yashoda, she was still asleep. It was such a gentle birth. And he, by the power of Yoga Maya, he couldn't see there were twin children on the bed. He only saw Yoga Maya. And he put baby Vasudeva on the bed, and that Vasudeva Krishna entered into the body of Nandananda and Krishna. So Krishna in Dwarka is Vasudeva Krishna. Unless we have a lot more time to discuss things about Madhavananda. That's another long discussion. It'll take us a week. But Madhavi Devi here, she's addressing Jagannath, and Jagannath we would think of as Dwarkadish. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, he says like this, in his purpose in Chaitanya Bhagavat, that Jagannath is Dwarkadish Krishna. But here, Madhavi Devi, she's saying, Shri Nandanandana say Jagabandhana. That person who's Jagabandhana, who is adored by the whole world, he's the beloved son of Nanda Maharaj. Chandana Charchita Anga, his body is worshipped with very wonderful sandalwood paste. Sakshat Brajendra Kumara Sehari, that beautiful son of Braj. He's also Niladri Bhavya Vibhav. He's manifested himself as a very sweet treasure of Niladri. Jagannath Puri Dham. Bahura Kalare Prema Romanchare Radha Nama Ange Jagati Prema Pulakare Gajadanda Vara Palange Kanti Pahuti. And she says a very interesting thing here, which is the topic we would like to try to speak about tonight. You all are Gaudiya Vaishnavas, and you Gaudiya Vaishnavas, you're worshipping Lord Jagannath. In fact, as we spoke last night, Jagannath is the Ishtadev of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But how can he be the Ishtadev of Mahaprabhu if there's no Radha there? Raghunath Das Goswami, he's described the mood of Gaudiya Vaishnavas. He said in his Stavavali, Anadrichod Gitam api muni ganarvanika mukai pravinam gandharvam apicha nigamaistat priyatamam ya ekam govindam bhajati kapati dambikataya tad abhyarne sirne kshanam api nayami bratam idam. This is the mood of Gaudiya Vaishnavas. He said, never for one moment, not even one chama, will I go near a great hypocrite who worships Krishna but doesn't worship Srimati Radharani. I don't want to see their face. He said, this is my vow. Nayami Bhaktam Idam. This is my vow. Nothing else. I won't see the face of such a person. But Radharani is not worshipped with Lord Jagannath. We don't see Radha there. And even if Jagannath is Krishna, without the presence of Radharani, Raghunath Das Goswami says, sorry, I'm not interested. He says another verse. Sada Radha Krishna Chalaratu Lakela Stala Yugam Brajam Santya Jaitad Yuga Verarito Pi Tutim Api Punadwara Vatyam yadupatim api proda vibhavai spurantam tadvacha pichanahiti chanahi chalamikshitam api. He says that even if I have to suffer terrible separation from Radha and Krishna, I'll never, even for a moment, leave Braj. He says, even if I get an email, Krishna sends me an email from the worker, hey, Raghunath Das, come, I want you to... He says, I'm not going. I'll delete the email.
Spam.
Won't answer the spam. He says even more than that. Gaton madai radha spurati adina slishta ridaya sputam dvara vatyam iti yadi shrinomi shuti tate tadaham tatraivodata matipatami brajapurat Samudiya swantadika gatika gendrad apijavat. He said, however, if I hear out of some kind of madness that Srimati Radharani has gone to Dwarka, then even with no email, no invitation, I'm going to drop everything and I'm going to run there as fast as I can. This is a very big subject. This is a very elevated subject for us. Rupa Goswami in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, he describes this as Bhavalasarati. Bhavalasarati means when you have equal or greater devotion to Radhika than you do to Krishna. And this is our Sampradaya. Sampradaya, the Rupa Nugas, who are followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who's Radha Bhava Duti Suvalitam Nomi Krishna Sarupam. He's Krishna, but he's coming in the mood of Radha. He's come as a bhakta, as a devotee. He doesn't want to be worshipped. He's not coming as a deity. His purpose is to come to taste Radha Bhav. That's his internal purpose. His external purpose is to give Krishna prema to everyone. So, understanding these things, where is Radharani with Lord Jagannath? How do we understand this? If we study historically, we can find some very interesting things in this regard. It's described in Bhakti Ratnakar, and we can see that before the last part of the 16th century, there was no worship in Braj of the deity of Srimati Radharani. Certainly there was worship of Radha, and there was knowledge of Radha. Our Goswamis had been there, and they were giving their literatures, but there was no deity of Radha worship. The Bhakti Ratnakar describes that there was no deity of Radha being worshipped with Govindaji and Madan Mohan when these deities were installed by Rupa and Sanatan. That her worship with Krishna was done, but it was done mentally with some mantras. We had, some years ago, we had one of the Goswamis from Radha Raman temple come to visit us in Bhubaneswar, our temple. And I went to see him. Maharaj, if there's any service I can do for you, that can help you. You have a deity, can I help you get some flowers? And yes. So I got some flowers for him, and I watched him do his puja. Very interesting puja he had. He had no deity. He was doing puja. He had a little plate, little silver plate, and he'd take some chandan and he would write 2 syllables in Sanskrit, Ra, Da. And he would offer incense and worship to those 2 syllables, Radha. That was his worship. And this is traditional in Braj. They were worshipping Radharani in this way. Maharaj Purushottam Dev was the father of Maharaj Prataparudra. And Maharaj Prataparudra's son was known as Purushottam Jana. He named him after his father. So Maharaj Purushottam Jana in Bhakti Ratnakar said that he heard about this, that there was no deity of Radha there. So he sent deities of Radha from Orissa to Govindaji and Madan Mohan. The worship of Radha in India has been going on longer in Orissa than in Braj. It's very interesting. In Orissa, to this day, the festival of Radhastami is a festival in many counties, many areas of Orissa. It's a big thing. they don't do Durga Puja so much, whereas in West Bengal, Durga Puja is a big thing. And Radhastami, very few people, really, the common people understand about it. But there's many schools and government places that get holiday in Orissa for Radhastami. So Maharaj Purushottam Jana, he sent these deities. He sent two deities of Srimati Radharani from Orissa for Govindaji and Madan Mohan. And when those deities arrived, Madan Mohan, you could say, pulled a fast one. He came in a dream to a sevak and he told him, the big deity's not Radharani, it's actually Lalita. You should give them both to me. And the small deity's Radharani. The king, he sent it as a second deity of Radha for Govindaji, but you should give both deities to me, and you install the little one as Radha on my left side, and the larger one is Lalita on my right side. So after this dream, the sevak of Madan Mohan, he did that accordingly. And then Maharaj Purushottam Jana, he heard about that, and he was feeling a little unhappy and very sorry because he wanted to see a deity of Radharani with Govindaji. Many generations earlier than that, the Bhaktivedanta says, I mean hundreds of years prior to this, in Orissa, there was a Brahmin who had a very interesting name. His name was Vrishabhanu. And he was living in a place near Katha, in a place called Radhanagar. Living in a place called Radhanagar, Katha. There's a greater area called Krishnanagar, which at that time was the capital of Orissa. And that devotee named Vrishabhanu, he had a deity that he worshipped like his daughter, whose name was Ratha. And at that time, the king of Puri, we don't know which king that was, he heard about this deity and he went for darshan there. And after having darshan, he returned to his palace, and then Srimati Radharani came to him in a dream and told him that I want you to bring me from Radhanagar, I want you to install me inside the Jagannath Mandir, right by the Chakrabeda boundary wall. There's the outer wall of the Jagannath Mandir, it's called the Chakrabeda. And I want you to install me in a temple there. So the king was very happy about that, and he did that. But over some hundreds of years, people forgot about that. And they forgot that this was Srimati Radharani, according to Narahari Chakravarti. And that deity began to be worshipped as Lakshmi Devi. And so Maharaj Purushottam Jana, meanwhile, he was feeling very bad. I wanted to send two deities of Radha from Madan Mohan and Govindaji, but it turned out that one was Radha and the other was Lalita, so I failed. And then he had a dream. And this deity of the Chakrabeda wall that he thought was Lakshmi Devi came to him and said, actually, I'm Radharani. And they've been worshipping me wrongly for so long as Lakshmi Devi, but really I'm Radha, and that you should send me to Vrindavan to be worshipped on the left side of Govindaji.
This is after the departure of Goswamis.
Yes, after the departure. So then during the Mughal invasion, Radha Govindaji and Radha Madan Mohan and other Vrindavan deities, they were taken by the king of Rajasthan to the Amber fort near Jaipur. Maybe some of you have been there. And at that time, the king, Jai Singh II, he had a deity of Radha Govinda, the deities of Radha Govinda, taken from Amber to Golta Gadi. And Golta Gadi is a famous place where the Sri Vaishnavas, they protested. They objected to this worship for two reasons. One, they said that you, Gaudiya Vaishnavas, you're not bona fide because you have no tika on Vedanta Sutra. And secondly, they didn't like that the Gaudiya Vaishnavas were worshipping Srimati Radharani as superior to Lakshmi Devi. They can't tolerate that because they have this, that's their Ishtadev. So then Baladeva Vibhushan was sent there to Golta, and he wrote the Govinda Bhashya and his own personal Sukshma Bhashya. Govinda Bhashya was dictated to him personally by Govindaji. So interestingly enough, also Baladeva Vibhushan, he's also from Orissa, from the Ramuna area. As is Sridhar Swami, who wrote the Bhavarta Deepika on the Srimad Bhagavatam. So there's a very ancient tradition in Orissa of Srimati Radharani. And my revered spiritual master, he also told a very special story. The story which was very dear to us. I personally was fortunate. I got to, first 3 times this story was spoken by Guru Maharaj, I was present. The first time was it was on the East Coast in America, and the second time was in Los Angeles, and the third time, well, the first time was in LA, the second time was in Bhubaneswar, and the third time was in England. And it's the same story that he later spoke in Mayapur when he left this world. A very rare story which many Vaishnavas don't know about. Someone asked him a question in Mayapur, why did Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who's Radha Bhava Duti Subalitam, he's in the mood of Radha, why did he go to Jagannath Puri? Why didn't he go to Vrindavan? And we could add a little appendix to that. Why does this ecstasy increase even more in Jagannath Puri than in Vrindavan? How many of you have been to Vrindavan? Raise your hand. Been to Vrindavan? Okay. How many of you have you've seen any footprints or places where Mahaprabhu melted his footprints in stone in Vrindavan? Have you seen any such place? Mahaprabhu, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu melted the stone with his footprints. I've not heard of any. In Navadvip, how many of you have heard of any footprints of Mahaprabhu in the stone? I've not heard of any. But in Jagannath Puri,
there is a place where Mahaprabhu, one stone is the footprint of Mahaprabhu.
in Navadvip,
Yes,
in Mayapur.
I have to look on, I have the Parikram book. I can look.
Very good. That's a
and
very
I
good
can-
thing. But in Jagannath Puri,
Yes.
Mahaprabhu melted his footprints by the Guru Stamba. He melted his fingerprints in the Guru Stamba. And when he went to Brahmagiri Alanath, he melted his whole body in it. And Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami describes about Mahaprabhu in Puri. Loke nahi deki achi shastre nahi shuni hina bhava vyakta puri nasi chudamai. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, he says, Loki nahi deki, people have never seen, Shastri nahi suni, we've never heard from any Shastra, Hinga Bhava Vyakta Kori Nyasi Chudamani, the kind of ecstasies that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu exhibited in Jagannath Puri. We've never heard of them, not even in Navadvip, not even in Vrindavan Dham. Where Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sometimes manifested the form like a turtle, and his arms and legs went inside of his body, and other times his arms and legs became elongated, and other times during the Ratha Yatra he was crying, water was coming out from his eyes like from a squirt gun. And blood sometimes was coming from the pores of his skin. Other times it looked like there were kadamba flowers, like big golf balls, underneath his skin. We've never heard of any ecstasies like this and anywhere else. How do we understand this? My Guru Maharaj used to say that if you want to understand Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, you have to understand Srimati Radharani. Srila Jiva Goswami in Gopal Champu, he describes some of the things that happened after Krishna left Vrindavan. There was an exchange of letters. Krishna sent some letter to Madhi Yashoda. He sent some letter to the cowherd boys and to the gopis, and there was some reply. Different gopis, they replied back, but you might be surprised and perhaps disappointed to hear that Radharani didn't write a letter. Rather, there was a letter submitted on her behalf, which came from the hand of Lalita and Vishaka. And in that letter, they describe Vaidyas Tatrivalante Danvantarivan Madhupuryam Unmada Pasmarajam Riti Riti Kritikam Mahosadam Prishtam. Oh dear Krishna, the letter said, very strange, enigmatic letter. In Mathura, there are doctors that are as expert as Danvantari. Please inquire from them if they know a powerful medicine to counteract madness, epilepsy, and death. There was no letter from Srimati Radharani. Only this letter came on her behalf, indicating the situation of Srimati Radharani. So, my Guru Maharaj, he used to ask a question, Is this one-sided? Is it only that the gopis and Radha are feeling separation and Krishna's not feeling separation from them? Krishna promises in Gita, Ye tam mam prapadyante tam stataiva bhajamyam. As people approach me, as they surrender to me, I reciprocate accordingly. It's his promise. So we hear a lot about the separation of Srimati Radharani. But Sanatana Goswami, we had Bhagavatamrita, and Raghunath Das Goswami, Mukta Charit, Rupa Goswami, a little in the Ujjwal Nilamani, they've described something about Krishna's separation in Dwarka. There's a very nice book that we came across, a very rare book a few years ago, called Vrindavan Lilamrita, which is written by a devotee in the line of Lord Nityananda. His name is Nanda Kishore Goswami. And he was living at Nityananda Vat on the bank of the Jamuna, right near to the temple of Radha Damodar. He lived, I don't know, about 300 years ago or so. And he wrote a very wonderful book in Bengali describing the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. And there in that book he describes something about the feelings of Krishna and Dwarka. I'll sing a verse or two that he's written and we can chant Hare Krishna response. Ajantani magna kabu koraye bala kabu raga rada boli kore anutape Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama. Krishna sometimes would become delirious in ecstasy. Kabu, sometimes he would start calling out Radha, Radha, Boli, Kori, Anutap, and he would begin to lament. Kabu Mora Kori Rahe Bohe Ashuda Ajanda Sutita Hoy Satikam Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama. Sometimes Krishna would be very silent. And none of the Mahishis, the queens in Dwarka, would know what's going on. He was just being very quiet. And Krishna would just sit there, and tears would be pouring down his cheeks. And he wouldn't say anything. And sometimes Atyanta Sudipta Hoya Sattvika Vikar, all the different symptoms of Asa Satvikar, Bhav, all the symptoms of ecstasy would erupt on the body of Krishna. Sometimes Krishna, Sanatana Goswami says, would be sleeping in the bed with Rukmini. And in the middle of the night, Rukmini would tell the other queens, I don't know what happened. He started pulling on my clothes and saying, Radhe, Radhe. Who is this Radhe, Radhe? And other times, he would act like he was playing a flute. And sometimes, in his sleep, he would just start crying. And he would cry so much that his pillow would become soaking wet with his tears. Who is this Radhe, Radhe? And Nanda Kishore Goswami describes in a very beautiful way how they approached Krishna to ask him about that. And this led to Kurukshetra Leela. That's another chapter. But I'd like to tell this story that our Guru Maharaj told tonight, a very special story for us. Krishna, finally in Dwarka, it became too much for him. And he couldn't tolerate separation from the Brijbasis. So much so that one day, Krishna fell unconscious on the ground. And he was laying there. And you can imagine it created so much a disturbance. Everyone in Dwarka was so worried, well, what's happened to Krishna? And so very quickly, some of Krishna's main devotees, they came there. Uddhava came there. Narad Muni was there. Subhadra was there. And Balaram were there. And they were in anxiety. We haven't seen Krishna like this before. What can we do? And Narad Muni, he said at that time that, I understand the problem. Krishna is feeling separation from Vrindavan. And I know the solution. If I sing some Braj Leela Kahani, if I sing some of the pastimes of Braj, then Krishna will regain external consciousness. Everybody said, very good, you should do it. Narad Muni said, no, you don't understand. There's another problem. If we do that, then Krishna is going to immediately want to leave and go to Vrindavan. They said, what's the problem with that? Huh? We'll call Nandi Ghosh, Krishna's chariot, and Daruka, Krishna's chariot driver. We'll have them ready, and they can take Krishna to Braj. Narada Muni said, you don't understand. If Krishna goes to Vrindavan now, I don't know what will happen to him. Because the Brijbasis are feeling so much terrible separation from Krishna. If Krishna sees them in that mood of separation, I don't know what will happen to him. We need to send a message ahead that Krishna's coming. He said, very good. Uddhava, you should go. Uddhava is Krishna's messenger, and he's very, very dear to Krishna. Krishna previously, from Mathura, he sent Uddhava with a message of love to Vrindavan. But Uddhava, he said, I can't go. Now, why you can't go? He said, previously Krishna sent me there with a message of love, and I went there, and I tried to pacify Nanda and Yashoda and the gopis. But there was nothing that I could say. I couldn't pacify them. And then I saw there's only one thing, one medicine that would keep them alive. Only one thing I could say. I had to tell them, Krishna's returning very soon. So I told them like that. But then Krishna didn't return. And it's been so very, very long. So if I go there now and tell them that Krishna's coming, they'll call me a liar. They won't believe me. So I can't go. So then they said, Balaram, you should go. Balaram also carried a message of love to the gopis and Nanda and Yashoda on another occasion. So you should go and you should tell them Krishna's just now coming. Very quickly he's coming. And Balaram hung his head. And Balaram said, I also can't go. And he said, why not? Balaram said, I also went to Braj. And I also tried to console them. But like Uddhava, I saw that nothing would work. There was only one thing they wanted to hear. And so like Uddhava, I also told them, when I return to Dwarka, I'm going to tell Krishna, you have to return. Krishna's going to come very soon. And by telling them that, it kept them alive. But if I return now, they won't believe me. Because when I came back to Dwarka, Krishna, he's my younger brother. I'm Krishna Purbaja. He's famous as Dauji, Krishna's elder brother. Krishna always listens to me. But this time, he wouldn't listen to me. I don't know why. And he didn't say anything. And he never returned. So if I go back to Braj now and tell them that Krishna is coming, they'll also call me a liar. At that time, Subhadra stepped forward and she said, I'll go. Everybody knows that men are very crooked, but ladies are very simple and straight. I'll go there and I'll sit on the lap of Mother Yashoda and I'll wipe away her tears and I'll tell her, Ma, Krishna's coming, Krishna's coming. Just now, some kings are worshipping him on the way. And he's a little late, but he's coming. So they said, yes, very good idea. And at that time then Balaram said, well, I also want to go. So they called for Balaram's chariot, Taladvaj, and Subhadra's chariot, Padmadvaj. And Balaram and Subhadra got in their chariots, and Balaram went first. And Subhadra came second, and third was Chakadola Jagannath. He came later. This is Ratha Yatra, as is traditionally done for millennium in Jagannath Puri. Balaram goes first, second is Subhadra, and the third is Jagannath. So Balaram and Subhadra were very, very eager to return to Vrindavan. And their chariots went very fast. They arrived on the edge of Vrindavan and they jumped off their chariots and they ran to meet their beloved friends and family in Braj. But when Balaram and Subhadra saw the residents of Vrindavan, they became shocked. Some Vaishnavas have said that Mother Yashoda was still standing in the road, staring in the direction where Krishna had left, and just crying like a statue. And that Mother Yashoda's stove, which was always in many ways the center of Vrindavan, was now covered with cobwebs because she was no longer cooking, because Gopal was not there. My Guru Maharaj said that the residents of Vrindavan had stopped eating, and they'd become so thin that the gopis, the rings on their little fingers had become bangles on their wrists, and that the Jamuna was shrinking. Govardhan Hill was becoming smaller. All the grass and plants were dying, and all the residents of Vrindavan were suffering and dying in separation from Krishna. And Balaram and Subhadra arrived. When they saw those feelings of the residents of Vrindavan, they became deeply affected. Don't think those feelings are something like the feelings of some of the residents of Ukraine who've lost their homes, who maybe lost their son or their wife or something. They're not mundane feelings of sadness or lamentation. It's a kind of ecstasy. It's a kind of great madness, love for Krishna, Madana. And when Balaram and Subhadra saw that, they became so deeply affected by that ecstatic love of the residents of Vrindavan that something happened to them. Because Deha, Dehi, the body and the self, are generally different. But in the case of Balaram and Subhadra, there's no difference between their body and their self. So when this ecstasy manifested in their hearts, seeing the mood of the residents of Vrindavan, it manifested outside on their external body, and they became stunned. And their hands and legs shrunk into their body, and their eyes became very big, and their mouths became very big. And this is a form, like Guru Maharaj said, known as Mahabhav Prakash, or the form of divine ecstasy. And there was no message given. Balaram and Subhadra couldn't say a word. They just fell over in ecstasy. Meanwhile, in Dwarka, Narad Muni, he picked up his veena and he began to sing some pastimes of Braj. Krishna regained external consciousness and jumped up. Hey, huh? And the first thing that he did, immediately, his hand went to his waist. He was looking for something. What was he looking for? He was looking for his vangsi, his flute. And Krishna became a little confused. He was looking, where is my flute? These gopis, they must have stolen it again. And then Krishna looked around and he said, hey, Uddhava, what are you doing here in Vrindavan? Narad Muni, you're here in Vrindavan also. And they had to tell him, Krishna, you're not in Vrindavan. You left Vrindavan. Now you're in Dwarka. And then Krishna began to cry. He became like a madman. I must return, I must return, I must return. He said, yes, we have your chariot here, your chariot driver. You come. And then Krishna went to his chariot. It's highly recommended that at least once in your life you go to Jagannath Puri for Ratha Yatra. And you see the Pahandi Vijay when Jagannath comes out of the temple and he's swaying back and forth like this. Now Guru Maharaj described that there's a reason for that, because he's drunk. Now, this will come as a shock for those of you who are very strict about the four regulated principles. He's not drunk on some Danish wine, beer or something, but he's drunk on Radha Madhuri, the wine of Radha. Thinking so much about Radharani, Krishna can't even walk straight. And you see him every year coming out, moving like this. And they take him, they put him on his chariot, and Krishna's going so fast to return to Vrindavan. And meanwhile in Vrindavan, word had quickly spread throughout Vrindavan. A very terrible thing had happened. People were saying, Radharani's dying. And they'd taken Radharani to Niduvan, which is just near the temple of Radharaman. And Radhika was laying with her head in the lap of Lalita. She had a very high fever and she'd been unconscious for a long time. And she's about to die. And all the residents of Vrindavan became very disturbed. And they all started coming there and crying and begging her, don't go, don't go. Chandravali came. Rupa Goswami in Lalita Madhav says that Chandravali is actually Radharani's cousin. And Chandravali, she came there and she began to cry and she said, hey Radhe, don't go. Don't go. Sometimes people say that I'm your competitor. That's not true. The only reason Krishna comes to my kunj is he wants to see your loving sulkiness known as man. It gives him pleasure. Sometimes Chandravali, she reminds Krishna of Radha. And Krishna is so attached to Radha, he becomes mad over Radha. When he sees someone who looks like Radha, he forgets everything. He becomes intoxicated. In that intoxicated condition, Bhadra and Saibya take him by the hand and they take him to the kunj of Chandravali. And he forgets about everything until Lalita comes in the bushes and she writes a little note on a leaf and throws it inside the kunj. Krishna picks up the leaf. Oh, I'm in big trouble. And he tells Radharani, there's a terrible disturbance, there's a demon attacking Braj, I have to go right away. And he runs to go see Ratha. So Chandravali began to cry, hey Radha, don't go, don't go. At that time, Kutila is a crooked so-called sister-in-law of Srimati Radharani. She came there and she was also crying, Radha, don't go. I've committed so many offenses to you. So many times I criticized you. I said that you were asati, unchaste. And I was very proud of myself that I was such a chaste lady. And you were always going with that black snake, that son of Nanda Maharaj. And I was criticizing you. And then Radha, one day Krishna had a fever. And word very quickly spread throughout Braj. Krishna has a fever. They tried to bring him some doctors, Ayurvedic medicine. Krishna said, that doesn't work for me. He said, there's only one medicine that'll work for me. If you bring me a pot of water from the Jamuna, but that pot should be made out of clay with 1,000 holes in it. And it should be carried on the head of a perfectly chaste lady. And if she's perfectly chaste, none of the water will come out of the pot. They advertised like that. There was not a big queue of ladies who wanted to try that thing. And then Kutila said, I was very proud. I said, I'll do it. I'll show my chastity. So Kutila said, I went there to the Jamuna, I took that pot with 1,000 holes in it, I put it in the Jamuna, and I put it on my head, and all the water came out. And I became soaking wet. And then Radha, you stepped forward and you said, let me try. And you took that pot, you went to the Jamuna, you put the pot in the water and you said one word, Govinda. And you filled that pot up with water and you put it on your head and not one drop came out. Oh Radha, you are the most chaste lady of Braj, and I've offended you so many times. Please forgive me. At that time, Abhimanyu came. Abhimanyu is sometimes known as Ayan Ghosh, is Radharani's so-called husband. It's a long story about Ayan Ghosh. He came there, and he also started crying. He said, Radhe, don't go. Some people say that I'm your husband, but I never touched you. It's a long story. The Puranas have described it. On the wedding day, Ayan Ghosh is Krishna's uncle. He was much older than Radharani. And on the wedding day, Krishna saw the chariot going for the wedding. He said, hey, Uncle Ayan, let me ride on your lap. And he claimed and sat on Ayan Ghosh's lap. And a funny thing happened. Suddenly, Ayan Ghosh's male equipment disappeared. And when he went to marry Radharani, he's supposed to reach out and take the hand of the bride. Ayan Ghosh somehow didn't do that, but Krishna did. Krishna took Radharani by the hand. And the night of the wedding, Ayan Ghosh didn't have any male equipment. He was a little embarrassed. So he didn't come for the wedding night. And he told Radharani, I never touched you. I'm your so-called husband. Actually, Ayan Ghosh is described in the Puranas as being the shadow of Krishna. He's not different from Krishna. It's a long story how that happened. And he began to cry, and he fell at the feet of Radharani. He said, please, Radha, don't go. So just at that time, Krishna arrived in Vrindavan on his chariot. And when Krishna arrived there in Nidhuvan, he became so excited to see Radharani. And he jumped off the chariot and he went running to see Radha. And then he saw the condition of Radharani, that she was nearly dead, lying on the lap of Lalita. And Radharani's condition, again, don't think it's some mundane condition, some mundane feelings of separation like we hear about in the movies, the mundane songs. It's a symptom of the topmost ecstasy of love. And when Krishna saw that, he became so moved by Radharani's condition that something happened to him. And his eyes became very big. A big smile came on his mouth. And his hands and legs shrunk in his body. And he manifested that form known as Mahabhav Prakash, the form of great ecstasy. So there was union. Radha and Krishna were finally together. But there was a problem. Brenda Devi, who's very expert, she arranged for a breeze to come across the body of Krishna and carry the fragrance of Krishna's body to Radharani's nose. And at the same time, Lalita whispered in Radharani's ear, Radhe, Krishna's returned. Krishna's returned. At that time, Radharani's eyes opened. But Krishna was still unconscious. And so at that time, Radharani sent Vishaka, you go and revive Krishna. And Vishaka knew the medicine for Krishna. She went and whispered in Krishna's ear, Radhe, Radhe. And then Krishna came to external consciousness. And our Guru Maharaj, he said, at that time there was eye-to-eye union. And Krishna told Srimati Radharani that to commemorate this pastime, I'll always keep this form of Mahabhav Prakash in Jagannath Puri. And there'll be a meeting there between yourself and myself. And so he said that Jagannath is a form known as Radha Viraha Vidura Rup, or the embodiment of separation from Radha. His separation from Radha can manifest a form. That form is Jagannath. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is meeting Jagannath in Puri. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna Viraha Vidura Rupa. Separation from Krishna can manifest a form. That form is Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So these two opposites, Radha Viraha Vidura Rupa and Krishna Viraha Vidura Rupa, are meeting in Jagannath Puri Dham. And this is one explanation of how Radha is there with Jagannath. But we still may not be satisfied with that. Because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is worshipping Jagannath. He's in the mood of Radha. But then where is Radha? We don't see any form of Radha with Jagannath. There's no deity of Radha with Jagannath. Or is there? In the Jagannath Ashtakam, the 6th verse describes Para Brahma Pira Kuvalaya Dulot Fulanayano Nivasi Nilado Nahita Charano Nanta Sirasi Rasanandi Radha Sarasa Vapur Alingana Sukho Jagannatha Swami Nayana Patagami Bhavatune Balo Jagannatha Swami Nayana Patagami Bhavatune. I remember seeing a very strange translation of this. Para Brahma Pira Kuvalaya Dolo Pulanayano. That described that Lord Jagannath, who has lotus-like eyes, he has his feet on the head of Lord Brahma. Why would Lord Jagannath put his feet on the head of Lord Brahma? Doesn't make any sense. Actually what the verse is saying, that Para Brahma Pira Kuvalaya Dolo Pulanayano, that Lord Jagannath, who has lotus eyes, he's the last limit of Brahman. Because he's the last limit of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because he's Mahabhav Prakash. He's a form of great ecstasy. Nibasi niladro nahita charano nishchitamidam. He's always living in Nilachal Jagannath Puri Dham. But he says something very special. Rasanandi Radha Sarasavapura Lingana Sukho. In great happiness, in great ecstasy, Jagannath is always embracing Srimati Radharani to his heart. Raise your hand. Have any of you here ever dressed Lord Jagannath, bathed or dressed Lord Jagannath? Maybe in the temple at the time of Snan Yatras. Have you ever bathed Lord Jagannath? Raise your hand. Okay. Now how many of you saw Radharani there? I've never seen Radharani there. What does it mean? The verse is a very strange verse. How do we understand this? Srimati Radharani is there in that place. But he's speaking like this. We did research on this subject matter for about 20 years. And we found some very little known secrets that very few people know about, that indicate the presence of Srimati Radharani in other ways. Next year is going to be a very special festival in Jagannath Puri called Navakalevaram. The last festival of Navakalevaram was in 1996. I was there at that time. That was a year ago, Marshala. The previous year was in 1978, the year Prabhupada. And it happens when the Adhika Mas, the extra month, falls between Ratha Yatra and Akshaya Tritiya. Thank you. When it comes between Akshaya Tritiya and Ratha Yatra, then they have this Navakalevaram, which means the change of body of Lord Jagannath. And it's a very complex thing. We wrote a long article about this before. You could make a long book about it. To just give you a tiny little taste of it. Before they begin the search, there's a special search party. It begins at the Jagannath Mandir, and they give the Agyamala, a special garland from Lord Jagannath, to those search party members to indicate the presence of Lord Jagannath, the blessing of Lord Jagannath, the order of Jagannath. And they set out and they go to the temple of Durga Devi, and they stay there until the head priest has a dream. And Durga tells him where the tree is going to be found. And after that, then they have to check in a book called Madhulapanji, which is a Stala Purana in the Jagannath Mandir. And that Madhulapanji is supposed to tell the name of the place where that tree is found. If it's not the same name, they're not supposed to go there. Then when they go there, different things have to be there. There has to be a mountain nearby, there has to be an anthill, there has to be a lake, there has to be a river, there has to be a Shiva temple, there has to be a crematorium. All those things have to be present. If they're not present, they won't accept the tree. The tree has to have 4 branches. If it has 2, if it has 5, if it has 6 or 8, they won't accept it. The tree has to not be touched by any ants or any insects. It can't have any bird's nests or anything in it. It has to have a cobra living at the base. The cobra is the protector. It has to have a neem tree growing next to it, and 2 other trees, I forget the special name, very rare trees. And the tree, if that wasn't enough, has to have 4 symbols which form naturally in the tree of Shankha, Chakra, Gada, Padma, the 4 symbols of Lord Narayan. I was there in 1996 and we went to see the tree. I have a friend who got a photo of the cobra. Wasn't fortunate enough to get his darshan. But I could see the different symbols in the tree, the 4 branches and like that. So after they've done all that, then they come, and one panda comes with an axe. First they come with a gold axe, and a silver axe, and an iron axe. The gold axe is about as big as a toothpick. They touch it to the tree. Silver axe is about the same size. They also touch it. And then the guy with the iron axe has the hard work. He comes and he cuts the tree down. Then they cut all the branches off. And there's also has to be trees of Balarama and Subhadra also. That's another thing. They cut all the branches off. They cut all the bark off. They do an abhishek ceremony. They chant Purusha Shukta. And they do an abhishek of the tree. And then at that time comes a very secret ceremony. When you perform some deity installation, some prana pratishtha, part of that process is called sad anganyas, that you evoke the deity, the personality in the form of the deity. Shri Krishna Ihavaha Ihavaha, Shri Krishna Ihatista Ihatista. You evoke the Lord in that piece of metal, in that piece of wood, in that piece of stone, whatever it may be, which is not transcendental. It has something of the form of the Lord, but the Lord is not there. You evoke Him. You're in effect telling that form who you are. This is known as Sadanganyas. So there's a Shodanyasa, or the mantra, which gives the identity that they chant at that time over the Jagannath Daru. In fact, none of the Pandits know this mantra. And we managed to find out. Would you like to hear it?
Yes.
They chant this mantra, what is it, I think 6 times over the deity. Smirasham kum kumabam sperud andara pata pranta klipta vagundam ramyam vesena veni krita chikurashi kalambi padmam kishorim tarjanam gushta yuktya harimukha kamale yunjatim nagavali parnam karna yakshim Tribhuvana ruchiram radhikam bhavayami. Translation, I meditate on Radharani, who is the most beautiful girl in the 3 worlds. She has a smile on her face, and her complexion is the color of kumkum. Her veil is made with a border of resplendent lower cloth. Her dress is delightful, and a lotus hangs at the end of her braid. She appears wonderful in her fresh youth, and her eyes extend to her ears. With her thumb and index finger, she's placing a betel leaf into the lotus mouth of Hari. So this is the inner identification of Lord Jagannath. That's very interesting. We found out something else very interesting. Apart from the deities of Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra, there are a number of other deities on the altar of Puri. That's a long discussion. But there's one deity who represents Jagannath, who's only used once a day. He's called the Shayana Vigraha, and all he does is sleep. That's his service, he just sleeps. And that Shayana Vigraha, he's brought out every night just after the ceremony known as Bada Shringara Dup, or the Artik ceremony wherein Lord Jagannath wears his dress known as Bada Shringara Vesh. The dress, a great conjugal mellow. The dress we were speaking about yesterday when Radharani and the gopis are said to come and see him. And then Jagannath goes to sleep. Well, Jagannath, he's about 7 feet tall. He weighs probably 120 kgs or something. He's huge. You don't put him in a bed. The bed would break. So they have a special deity who is Jagannath, not different from Jagannath, called the Shayana Vigraha. And that deity is only about as big as my thumb. And that deity is a very interesting deity. The deity is made out of solid gold. A small deity. And that deity is not exactly like Jagannath. That deity, he's known as Ardha Nadi Ishvara. Ardha Lakshmi Hari. He's half Lakshmi and half Narayan. 50-50. Very unusual form of the Lord. We gave, in our article, we gave some mention of some different shastras, such as the Sarati Tantram, which describes this form. But it's a very, very unusual form. So, this is very interesting, first of all, because the deity is made out of gold. The other deities in the temple, there's no other deities made out of gold. But this one's made out of gold. And when we think of gold, we also think of Radha. Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshri. She has a golden complexion. So, our Guru Maharaj, he's described this about Radharani's golden complexion. He says, when we speak about prem, it has a gradual development. The first rise of prem is called rati. When rati becomes more and more condensed, it develops into sneha, man, pranaya, rag, anurag, and bhav. Then comes mahabhav, which further develops in ruda mahabhav, adi ruda mahabhav, modanaki mahabhav, and then madanaki mahabhav, the topmost. This is a gradual development of prem. When prem is developed to the stage of anurag, its complexion is the color of the rising sun, aruna varna. When anurag becomes more condensed, it becomes bhav and then mahabhav. The color of mahabhav is golden, gauravarna. So Vrishabhanu Nandini, the daughter of Vrishabhanu Raj, is Madanakya Mahabhava Mayi. The color of that Madanakya Mahabhav is molten gold. Therefore Radharani is Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi, the color of molten gold. So, this is another very interesting thing. And our acharyas have described the nature of vipralamba, or separation. Srila Jiva Goswami describes that vipra, lamba means to attain something from a distance. This is vipralamba. It means external separation and internal union. Just the opposite of what it looks like. It looks like separation, but actually there's union there. And that union gives them great ecstasy, even though it seems like it's separation. So in the form of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we see that he's Radha Bhava Duti Sivalitam Nomi Krishna Surabam, two opposites in one container, Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Radha Krishna Nahi Anya. He's a combined form of Radha and Krishna. And also Lord Jagannath is also a combined form of Radha and Krishna. How can it be otherwise? Both of them are the embodiments of separation. But Jagannath is Radha Viraha Vidura Roop. He's the embodiment of separation from Radha. It means there's external separation from Radha. And therefore Krishna is blackish, but on the inside is gold. On the inside, Srimati Radharani is embraced to Jagannath's chest. And therefore, Srimati Radharani is evoked. The Shoda Nyasa mantra, the mantra to give the identity to the Jagannath Daru, is a Radha Dhyan mantra, a meditation on Srimati Radharani. Just as Krishna, as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, is a combined form of Radha and Krishna, but in him, the mood of Radha is predominant. Krishna is on the inside, and Radha is on the outside. He's golden on the outside and blackish on the inside. So his Ishtadev is Jagannath, and Radha is there. How could it be otherwise? How else could Chaitanya Mahaprabhu worship Lord Jagannath? How else could he have ecstasies that we don't hear about, even in Vrindavan or in Navadvip and Gaura-lila? Lord Jagannath is Radha Viraha Vidura Roop, or the embodiment of separation from Srimati Radharani, meaning that Radha is on the inside and Jagannath Krishna, Sham Sundar, is on the outside. So this is a little something about Radha and Jagannath. I hope it gave you some pleasure. And this is why Madhavi Devi, she describes in her song so many wonderful things about Radha and Jagannath, because she sees Radha there with Jagannath. And Madhavi Devi is such a very, very intimate associate of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So I hope this will give us some meditation for our Jagannath Ratha Yatra. We can become very, very internally thinking like this, and externally being very equal to everyone and seeing that the Lord of the universe has come and he's everyone's Lord, whether they know it or whether they don't know it. Every Muslim, every Christian, every person in the world is there, and this is a function for the Lord of the universe. And if we have that mentality, then Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu may appear amidst the devotees in unseen form begin to dance. Shimadujara Saganaiti Murti Mahabhat Prakash Jagannath Swami Ki Jai. Shri Jagannath Ratha Yatra Maha Mahotsava Ki Jai. Shri Shri Gaur Nityananda Prabhu Ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vinda Ki Jai. Go Premanande Vamsha Kalpatarubhishcha Kripasandhyavishcha Patitanam Vaishnava. Sorry we went late, I didn't realize the time I was looking. Did you have a question?
Well, there's one thing I don't really understand. How can we please Radharani by worshipping her? Because how can she be pleased by being worshipped while she has all her worship for Krishna?
Thank you. That's such a good question. I remember once, to give a different analogy about this in a little personal way, we were coming out of the temple in Bhubaneswar with our spiritual master. As we were going down the steps, one of my godbrothers stopped in front of Guru Maharaj. He said, Guru Maharaj, I don't know Krishna. I can't chant Krishna's name. There's so many offenses. But I know my Gurudev. So isn't it better to chant my Gurudev's name? And Guru Maharaj stopped. He became very angry. He slammed his cane on the ground. He said, no. Guru tells you to chant Krishna now. So sometimes people, they say, hey, I've got a better idea, you guys. You're all chanting Krishna's name. Let's chant Goranam. It's more esoteric. Once some person at Radhakund had said, came to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati and said, Maharaj, this disciple of yours over here is very advanced and I stopped chanting Krishna now. And now he's just chanting Radhe, 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 Radhe. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta said, oh, it's very impressive. He said, you know what happens if you chant the name of Radha? And he quoted some verse from the, he quoted some verse from the Brahmavivarta Purana, which describes how if, as soon as someone says the first syllable Ra, then Krishna becomes ecstatic. And then when you recite the syllable Da, Krishna comes running after you. So that's pretty good. He said, if you chant the name of Radha, Krishna will personally come running. He said, but we have a better program. We chant the name Krishna, and somebody else comes running. Srimati Radharani comes running. It's not that the Sakhis and Manjaris are going around Radha doing, saying, Radhe, 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 Radhe. Srimati Radharani will put her fingers in her ear and stop that. What are you doing? She wants to hear Krishna, Krishna. So we worship Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who's in the mood of Radha, in the same way that the Sakhi Manjaris worship Radha, by chanting the names of Krishna. And this is the kirtan of our sampradaya. All of our acharyas in the mood of this Manjari Bhav, chanting the names of Krishna to help ease the pangs of separation that Radharani feels, is manifested in the form of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So this is why we chant the names of Krishna, because we have a better program. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Chaitanya Bhagavati says, Jadi ama prati sneha take sabakar, Hare Krishna jati ruta naga ide ahe, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Jadi ama prati sneha take sabakar. If you really love me, you love my instructions. You do what I say. He says, don't chant my name. Chant Krishna's name. And don't chant any other name. He's not come to be a deity. He's come as a devotee. A devotee to try to repay his debt. And he's asking us to help him to repay that debt to Radharani. And we repay that debt not by chanting the name of Radhe, Radhe, but by chanting the name of Krishna, Krishna. We're reading a nice article today by Advaita Prabhu, who's saying that and there's no Gaudiya Vaishnava group in history who has part of their sadhana chanted Radhe, Radhe, Radhe. Nobody does that. They chant Krishna, Krishna, and there's a reason for that. Because this Krishna, Krishna is our worship of Radha. And Radharani gets more pleasure. We have a better program. Is that okay?
Yeah, I understand.
Okay, Mataji?
If Lord Jagannath is everybody's Lord, then why doesn't he allow everybody into his temple?
Oh, that's a very good question. But a better question is there. why is Lakshmi Devi locked out? It's the Sri Mandir, it's her temple, but you know she's locked out? There's a story in the Lakshmi Purana that Lakshmi Devi once got locked out. We wrote an article about this in one of our magazines. And not only that, but more shocking, I think we may speak about this at Ratha Yatra Day. On the day of Bahuda Ekadasi, there's a special festival in the Jagannath Mandir. It's called Lakshmi Narayan Vivaha. It's a wedding of Jagannath and Lakshmi Devi. And on that day, they take Jagannath's cloth and Lakshmi's cloth and they tie a knot in it. And then 4 days later is Snan Yatra, Snan Purnima. And Jagannath comes out, Krishna comes out on top of the building there for his public bath. And they pour a few hundred pots of water on his head, and he gets sick. And so then, how he's sick, he's not really sick. He's a Supreme Personality of Godhead with a Satchidananda Vigraha. But it seems like he's sick. Some Vaishnavas say he's sick because in the distance he saw Vrindavan, and he's heart sick. And so what do they give him for medicine? They give him some herbs and things from the forest, like the forest of Vrindavan. And Lakshmi Devi for 2 weeks doesn't sleep. She's a very good wife. She takes care of Lord Jagannath like anything. And after 2 weeks, you can't blame her. She falls asleep. As soon as she falls asleep, what does Jagannath do? He unties the cloth. And he leaves the temple to go see his girlfriends. That's called Ratha Yatra. Lakshmi Devi wakes up a few days later. She's pretty unhappy about it. It's a long story. And she comes to see Jagannath, and many, many things happen. She goes back to the temple in a big huff. At that time, the king of Puri, he goes there, and it's called Lakshmi Narayan Bet. He becomes like a marriage counselor. And he goes to preach to Lakshmi. It's okay, he really loves you a lot. He didn't forget about you. He's coming back. You should forgive him. It's the right thing to do. And many things happen. Anyway, that night, before Jagannath goes back in the temple, that's the day of Bahuda Ekadasi, Jagannath, Balaram, Subhadra, they dress up in this Sunavesh, over 1 ton of gold. No one has said this, but I personally think they do this because he's trying to show Lakshmi Devi some respect. I remember you, I gave up those girls in Vrindavan, and now see all the gold and opulence, I'm here for you. The next morning, everybody starts blowing trumpets and beating on drums, and with great fanfare, Balaram and Subhadra enter into the temple, and then the Lord of the Universe, Jagannath, starts going in the temple, and the door slams shut in his face. And he can't go inside. And this happens every year. It's not just the Western devotees, but it's Jagannath himself. So this is a common thing in the Jagannath Mandir. It's a common pastime. There's many different examples of it. Great devotees, the greatest devotees in Orissa, like Salabeg, all the Puri Basis, anyone. If you meet someone from Orissa, you just start to sing some songs of Salabeg. People, they'll start crying, they'll go mad. So, Salabeg wasn't allowed inside the Jagannath Mandir. He's a son of Lal Beg, was born in a Muslim family. Balaram Das wasn't allowed inside the Jagannath Mandir. Haridas Thakur, Rupa and Sanatan weren't allowed inside the Jagannath Mandir, but they're the most famous devotees of Jagannath. It's a pastime that he has. In the Jagannath Ashtakam it said, Aho dine natena hita charano nishchitamidam Jagannatha Swami Nayana Patagami Bhavatume. He says that if someone really feels himself very low and fallen, then Jagannath really gives his mercy to those persons. Sometimes some of the pandits over the years in Puri, they've told me, Madhavananda, you're really unfortunate. And I say, why? I said, because you can't go inside the Jagannath Mandir, you can't see. I said, I don't have to go inside. I stay outside, and he comes outside to see me. I don't have to go inside. Oh yeah, but still you can't have darshan. Huh? And then I asked him, I say, look, you're a pandit, and you know Shastra, you're a very learned person. You tell me, who got more mercy from Krishna? The Brijbasis or the Dwarkabasis? What would you guys say? Who got more mercy? Who says the Brijbasis? Raise your hand. Okay, other people. Who says the Dwarkabasis? He says, okay. Usually they tell me the Brijbasis, and I tell them it's a lie. How can you say the Brijbasis got more mercy? He left them. They couldn't see him. And the Dwarkabasis saw him every day. It seems like the Dwarkabasis got more mercy, but it's not true. Actually, he gave more mercy to the Brajbasis. And that more mercy was in the form of that separation. And therefore Mahaprabhu, he says that darshanam mahatam karotu, whether you give me darshan or not, ma pranatastu sevanapraha. You're the Lord of my life. So sometimes we go, recently we were with a group from, I think those are Russian devotees, the last yatra we had. We take them every time in front of the Jagannath Mandir. I stand on top of a rickshaw and we make a little speech, and I tell them that we can't go inside the temple because we're like dogs. The dogs have to stand in the street, but we're Jagannath's dogs. And we should just stand out in the street and we should just cry and pray to Jagannath. And Jagannath will appear, and Jagannath does, in the form of Petit Pavan Jagannath. So Jagannath Puri is a place of great contradictions. And it's a place that looks like there's great opulence, but there's also great sweetness. And it's a place which evokes very powerful feelings from the heart. And one of the things which evokes the most powerful feelings we've seen is when Jagannath doesn't allow the devotees entrance inside the temple. But I don't think that it's a curse. I don't think that it's the fault of the Pandits. I don't blame them. I blame Lord Jagannath. It's him. Actually, I'll tell you an interesting story. We made a magazine about this subject. This is a little commercial, okay? This was the magazine, Petit Pavan, Most Merciful Lord. And this magazine has primarily two subject matters. This article that we wrote about why Jagannath doesn't allow other people, and it's called Only Hindus Allowed. How is he Jagannath? If there's only Hindus allowed, it's not right. And we told the story a lot more elaborately about Lakshmi and some other stories. So that was one of the main themes of the magazine, how Jagannath doesn't allow Westerners inside the temple. The other thing that became a big theme in the magazine was the wedding of Lakshmi and Jagannath. So when we were working on this magazine, it was an interesting thing for us because we didn't have time to finish it, Raghava knows. For the first, 6 issues, we didn't sleep like for 3 nights each time. It was like unspoken rule. And it was 3 days before we had to leave for Europe, and we hadn't started the layout for a magazine. And I just said a prayer to Jagannath. It's not possible. It usually takes me a month to do a nice layout for a magazine. And somehow, and 3 days later, it was finished. I don't know how, I didn't sleep a lot, but it was finished. And an amazing thing happened then. One of our friends came from Puri, just at that time, just when we finished, and said, hey, I have something special for you. I have some Jagannath Mahaprasad. We thought, wow, just see, we finished the magazine, that's never happened to me before. Just the moment we finished, some Mahaprasad comes from Lord Jagannath. It brought tears to my eyes. And he said, look, there's another thing I have for you. And he handed me an envelope. And inside the envelope was a card. And it's written in Oriya. I can read Oriya a tiny bit, very, very slowly. And I said, what is this? He said, it's a wedding invitation. It's an invitation to go inside the Jagannath Mandir for the wedding of Lakshmi and Jagannath. And I told Krishna Kumar, I said, Jagannath's laughing at us. We had to leave the next day for Puri, for Delhi and then Europe. So, no, we didn't try to go inside the temple. But I don't really care. I got an invitation that came from Jagannath. Just at that time, we finished making a magazine on 2 subjects. Why Western devotees are not allowed in the temple, and Jagannath's wedding, and I get an invitation to go inside the temple. I don't think it was a coincidence. So, just kind of rested there. But Srila Prabhupada sometimes was furious about it, and he chastised the Pandits, and we have some words from Prabhupada here. He told them they were committing great Vaishnava aparad and like that. But at the same time, Prabhupada also privately told devotees, don't fight with them. You just be humble, like Haridas Thakur. So there's an internal thing and there's an external thing for our mission. Both things are there. Is that okay? Long answer for a short question, I'm sorry. Prabhuji?
Normally when the wood is coming, they send one brahmana to cut the tree.
Uh-huh.
Yes, because before everybody was trying, was not working. So in this way, the appearance of Jagannath was there. But after that, was again, then was possible that to cut the trees by the.
Originally, when Maharaja Jun, the first time we talked
Yes.
about that, they couldn't cut that tree.
Yeah.
But then it's described that Vishvakarma, person and king, and Vishvakarma,
Yeah.
they gave him some private situation,
Exactly.
and he was able to cut the tree.
Yeah.
And so that person with the axe, by the way, is described as a descendant of Vishvakarma. That's what they consider
Yeah.
in Puri. And it's a whole thing. So he's able to cut the tree. And it's an interesting thing about Lord Jagannath. There's such a tension there. These people are really smart to Brahmins. I mean, for those of us who've been to Orissa, you know, the guys are like terrible. But do you know who's the original worshippers of Jagannath? It's the Sabras, the pig farmers. And they're not Brahmins. They're not really high-class people. And to this day, during the Ratha Yatra festival, those Sabras, those Daityapatis, they're the ones who take care of Lord Jagannath, and also during the Navakalabram ceremony. So again, there's two opposites in one thing. You have these really high-class, heavy-duty Brahmins with all their smarta rules, and at the same time you have some very, very humble people, low-class tribal people worshipping Jagannath. Okay? Anything else, Prabhu?
Last year I was in Ratha Yatra, and one thing I noticed on top of Jagannath is a cloth. It's not the wood itself when you see it. And how is it? It's only for when on the cart he's like that, or he's always?
Jagannath, I'm not sure what you mean by the cloth. He had been
It's
dressed
like
in some special cloth.
No. Face was drawn
Okay.
on the.
So on Jagannath's body, there's 7 different layers. Just as a human body has 7 different layers of bone, I can't remember all the layers, bone, marrow, semen, blood, skin, like that. And so Jagannath's body also has 7 different layers. I have a piece of Jagannath's skin from Puri, or not skin, actually it's a rope inside, which is considered to be like his bones, as I recall. And the inside is a wooden dara, which is like his bones, and on the outside they wrap some rope, and they put some resin, they put some different things. The resin represents the blood, and each different thing represents something else. And then on the outside they paint his face. Jagannath, they don't use acrylic paint. They don't use spray paint. I don't mean to disappoint you. They have a special color. We wrote some article about this for the Vaishnava Journal a few years ago. The black comes from, they take some madhu, some honey, and they put it in a silver container and they burn it. And it becomes like soot. And that's the black color on his face. The white is from crushed conch shells. And the red comes from some oxides, some natural minerals which they crush. And that's what they use for the colors of Jagannath. They're very, very particular about that. But you see in the Ratha Yatra festival, it looks like he needs a shave. Sometimes it's all smeared all over his face because the colors are not, it's not like acrylic paint or something. And when the pandits are handling him, it gets smeared. Usually what they do, they take a piece of black like chalk made out of this kind of, what do you call it, cudgel, and they make a line around his eyes. And you notice that, which is not there in the beginning of the Ratha Yatra, but they do it after a while because his eyes are so, he's getting rubbed out like that, because of this reason. He has these natural colors. And anyway, it's a long thing. Each one of these colors has a different meaning, and it's a whole, it's a big, big subject matter. Anything else to say?
Yeah, very simple question,
Okay.
but it's just
Good.
when you see photos of Lord Jagannath in the Puri temple,
We've never seen a photo of Jagannath in the Puri temple that I've ever seen. They don't
Really?
allow cameras inside the temple.
because
Photos you see it on a cart.
okay,
They're
yeah,
not
I
there
have a
to be
photo at home from Jagannath on his altar, and
There's
well, all
There's one photo that was going around as a point of interest, which people were saying, there's some pandits, and they're dressing Jagannath. And it looks like Jagannath's on the altar. It looks something like the altar in Puri. But there's a few strange things about the photo. First of all, if you look at the pandits, they're all wearing white cloth with no borders, which the pandits in Puri don't do. And they're all dressed exactly alike. Second strange thing in that photo, it may not be your photo, but in that photo, if you look, there's a microphone hanging down. And the altar looks very perfect, like a stage. I don't know, it's from some drama, some play or something, that particular one. Maybe sometime, I wouldn't be surprised, someone may have snuck a camera inside the Jagannath Mandir and taken a picture, but it would be very difficult because there's no light there either. they would have to have a flash or something, and they're going to get in big trouble. But there are many, many pictures of Jagannath on the cart, and they look like same.
But the pictures the one I have in my house and the ones I saw online, there are one or two people sleeping.
Yes, that's the cart.
That's the cart.
Yeah.
Oh.
Those are Daityapattis. They're like family members of Jagannath. During the Navakalevaram, when Jagannath comes back, and they have a ceremony, they take the Nabi Brahma, the life force of Jagannath, that's another long subject, don't ask me about that. From the old Jagannath's deity body to the new deity, and how they do that, they have their eyes blindfolded, their hands covered, and the whole thing. Then they take the old deity and they bury the deity in a cemetery inside the Jagannath Mandir called the Koili Vaikuntha. And that night, all the lights are turned off in the whole city, and all the Daityapattis, they shave their heads. Because that's what you do if a family member dies.
Yeah.
You shave your head. So it's considered like Lord Jagannath is I don't want to say he's died, but in a sense like that. Because he's so human-like, he has such wonderful pastimes. And then he's taken birth again, and the next day they go for a wonderful darshan of the new Jagannath, and he's the same as the old Jagannath. But so during the Ratha Yatra, it's quite common they sleep next to Jagannath. He's their homeboy, you know.
Yeah. In our society, it's not very doesn't
We
go
don't do
together.
that.
Go on the altar and sleeping, and then they do it just at the feet.
But the wonderful thing, even in Orissa, different Ratha Yatras have different customs, different rules, and customs that they perform. And as we were reading yesterday, Bhaktivinoda said that's the nature of spiritual life. Saintly persons come, and the acharyas come, and they give the principles of religion, but they're given to different people in different places at different times. Different cultures are there. They have different languages. They have different diets. And we're not just speaking about non-vegetarian, but if you see what they eat in Manipur and what they eat in Gujarat, it's very, very different. And the way they dress the deities in Manipur is completely different than the way they do in Gujarat or South India. So there develops a culture, a tradition, and certain rules and regulations and things. And Bhaktivinoda says this oftentimes with the neophytes it becomes sectarianism. We have our rules, we do our thing, and you have a different one. Just for example, we wouldn't allow Garuda to come to our movement meeting because Garuda is a non-vegetarian Vaishnava. He can't come here. We wouldn't let him do artik. Come on, sorry Garuda, you're not following 4 principles. You have to get out. We may tell him like that. So, because he has a different system, but don't think that Garuda is not a great devotee of the Lord.
Actually, Amsterdam has a non-vegetarian Vaishnava.
Okay.
It's the mice-catching cat that comes here sometimes to do the mice-catching session. But they do not allow him here in the temple room. He can go everywhere.
Very good.
I have one question. It might take long, but I think you promised us yesterday to speak about the chakra. The Jagannath chakra.
I won't say so much about that. There's 2 chakras. There's a chakra on top of the temple, and there's a chakra, the Sudarshan chakra, inside of the temple. And some Vaishnavas also, we should preface this a little bit. If you hear all the things that people say about Lord Jagannath, you might become very disturbed. I'll give you an example. Skanda Purana says that Subhadra is Lakshmi Devi. It's a little weird. And we hear sometimes Lord Jagannath dress up in Ramvesh, he dresses up like Lord Ramachandra, sometimes he dresses up like Parshuram, sometimes he dresses up like Bali, sometimes or Vamanadev, sometimes he dresses up like Lord Nrsingadev. He has different dresses because it's described in Skanda Purana that Lord Jagannath, whatever way the devotee considers the Lord Jagannath manifests before them. So some Vaishnavas also consider that the Sudarshan Chakra has a very special role. The Sudarshan Chakra is the Lord Shakti. And in the Jagannath Mandir, you'll never see Sudarshan on the right side of the Lord. Sudarshan is always on the left side. And some Vaishnavas consider that Sudarshan represents Srimati Radharani, because Radharani is always on the left side of the Lord. It's interesting, on Radhastami every year they have a special festival and Sudarshan comes out of the Jagannath Mandir and he goes to the temple of Jambeshwar Mahadev. I don't know what connection it has with Radharani, but it's on Radhastami day. And they worship, they do a special puja for Sudarshan on that day. So some Vaishnavas see in that way. Jagannath is a very amazing personality. When we made this magazine here, The Hidden Identity of Jagannath, we spoke about so many different ways different people worship him, and we gave different pramanas that they use to support their conception of Jagannath. Some people say Jagannath is Buddha, and there's different verses and songs and arisas that say Jagannath is Buddha. And some people say that he's Ramachandra, some say he's Ganesh, some say he's Shiva, some think he's Jesus, some think he's Muhammad, not Muhammad, Allah. They have so many ideas. So the amazing thing is that Jagannath reciprocates with all of them. So in the case of Sudarshan, like this is someone who's thinking Sudarshan is Radha. I don't think it's necessarily inconceivable that Radha may manifest in some way in Sudarshan, because that's also the Shakti of the Lord, Sudarshan. Sudarshan is the effulgence of the Lord. Srimati Radharani is also the effulgence of the Lord. But that's not the general way that we consider worship, but some Vaishnavas think that way. Okay?
So the first form of Lord Jagannath was came at the time of King Indradumna, and it was like in Satya Yuga, yeah. So the form of Jagannath was exist even Krishna come to the earth. So it was not the unknown form.
We like to think that this form of Jagannath is an eternal form. Our acharyas have described that all the forms of the Lord are eternal. They're all existing. And it's not that Jagannath wasn't existing before Satya Yuga and Indradumna Maharaj installed him and then he was existing, but he's always existing. And there are stories like the ones that we told, which some people say this is the first form of Lord Jagannath, but I wouldn't agree with that necessarily either. This story gives an occasion when Krishna manifested that Mahabhav Prakash, and there are other stories also about it similarly. Okay?
So the form of Krishna was known before in the form of that Mahabhav Prakash.
Well, even before this Divya Yuga, Krishna's form was known. Even before this material universe was created, Krishna, even before there was time, Krishna's form was known. And Jagannath's form was also there.
Maybe I don't understand. Lord Chaitanya is longing for Krishna in the mood of Radharani. So Jagannath is longing for Radharani in the mood of Krishna. So why is it that there is so much ecstasy? Because you think they meet each other, but the most ecstasy is in separation. So I don't understand.
There are 4 different types of union. There are 4 different types of separation. What is it? No, what's the first type of separation? Purvaraga. Purvaraga satalo tata manas, tata prema. There's Purvaraga before Radha and Krishna meet. There's Man, when Radharani becomes very angry, or sometimes Krishna becomes angry at Radharani. That's another thing. There's Prema Vaichicha, when they're actually together but they're feeling separation. And the 4th and most intense type of separation is called Prabhas. And there's 2 types of Prabhas. There's Dura Prabhas and Sudura Prabhas. Dura Prabhas is when Krishna goes to Kamyavan or some place to herd the cows and the gopis can't see him for a few hours and they're feeling so much separation. That's Dura Prabhas. But Sudura Prabhas is when Krishna goes to Mathura or Dwarka and they don't know if they'll ever see him again. So just as there's 4 types of separation, there's also 4 types of union. And the last and most intense type of union is called Samriddhiman Sambhog, which means fully enriched union. And that Samriddhiman Sambhog only takes place after Sudura Prabhas. And this is also Madhavananda Mahabhav, when both things, separation and union, are together, as in Jagannath Puri, as in Gaura Lila. There's union in Mahaprabhu, Radha and Krishna, both there. There's union in Jagannath, but they're the deity of separation, they're feeling separation. So separation is a predominant thing, but there's union. And that ecstasy is called Madhavananda Mahabhav in a very brief way. Is that okay? Anything else to say?
Yes, about the primary name and secondary. So why, if Jagannath is rule of the whole universe, he is a secondary name?
It's a secondary name, but it's also a primary name.
Yes.
It's primary for the gopis, who are addressing Krishna in a kind of sarcastic way, speaking with some double talk. Oh, now you're a big man, aren't you? You're Jagannath, Manima, excuse me, sir. But that's a kind of great sweetness that they're speaking that in. And in that way it becomes something of a primary name because of their conception. Because of what are these names, what makes them primary and secondary? It's the conception that goes along with them. When we think of Yashodanandan, for some people, you get someone to recite Yashodanandan on the street, it's just Yaso, Mati, Nandan, it's just some syllables, it doesn't mean anything. But for a devotee who understands, he thinks of the son of Mother Yashoda, and he thinks of certain leelas. And so the gopis, when they're addressing Krishna in this parokshavad, in this kind of tricky way, they're addressing him in a sarcastic way. And then that sarcasm is a manifestation of their great love. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who's also speaking like that, he's not speaking in the mood of a secondary kind of way like we see in the Karma Kanda, Jnana Kanda, Vedic literatures. He's speaking in the mood of the gopis of Braj. A very tricky thing. And that's Jagannath. Jagannath is very, very tricky. He's very difficult to understand. He's so many things to so many different people. All right? Okay, thank you very much for your association and the opportunity for good service for Jagannath. Srila Prabhupada ki, Samavega Bhakta-vrinda ki, Premanandi, Vancha Kalpa-Rubhischa, Sindhu-Devacha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha. Shri Jagannath Ratha Yatra ki. If anybody has any songbooks still, please give them to me. Radha, I'm going to show you some. Hand it to him. Can you read it? Something?
I can read it, but I can't understand it.
It's the first issue, Krishna Katambi in Hindi.
Oh, really? Yeah, I saw something. Beggar of praying. Huh?
Are the book available?
They're available online. If you write to